The rain just didn't stop for 3 days and nights. And then on the night of the 11th, the landslides hit.
I just want this to be over. I want the war to end as soon as possible. I don't want to go through another disaster like this again.
Typhoon Yagi affected many people in large areas of central and southern Myanmar. But some of the most vulnerable people were those who'd been displaced by conflict and were living in makeshift huts or tents in camps. They've now lost everything, again. Hello and welcome to Doh Athan, a weekly podcast about human rights stories from Myanmar. It's brought to you by Fondation Hirondelle. This episode is produced by freelance journalist Taungoo Mon. Names and voices may have been changed to protect contributors. On the morning of September 12th, residents of an IDP camp on the outskirts of Taungoo, Bago region, awoke to find themselves in ankle-deep water. Floods are not uncommon in the rainy season, so most people didn't worry too much. 61-year-old Doh Athan put some belongings in the rafters of his small bamboo hut, just to be on the safe side. But at around 9 o'clock, everyone heard a roar as a wave of water flooded into the camp, at knee level and rising by the minute. Chaos erupted in the camp of around 100 people. Doh Athan and his 3 siblings quickly gathered whatever they could carry and prepared to flee with their elderly mother.
We thought the water would only get up to knee level, so we didn't prepare that much. But suddenly we had to escape. It all happened within hours, and we didn't have time to get ready.
Some got away by motorbike, but Doh Athan's family and others were saved by rescue teams in light trucks. After the camp was evacuated, the water level apparently rose above 6 feet. It was Doh Athan's first experience with such a serious flood. His family didn't have a phone, so hadn't been aware of the news. They knew it was raining heavily and that a storm was approaching, but they didn't expect it to become so dangerous. Before January, the family had been living comfortably in Thandaung, southern Kayah state. They had to flee then after intense fighting between the Myanmar military and the Karen National Liberation Army, or KNLA. Now the floods have washed away their shelter and whatever meagre belongings they'd been given, like blankets and cooking utensils. They've lost everything, again.
I couldn't bring much with me because we were already fleeing from the war. We just brought enough to eat and wear. I think I've lost more than I realized. I couldn't take much. We had to leave almost everything behind. We barely escaped with the clothes we were wearing.
Typhoon Yagi affected many areas of Myanmar, mainly in Bago, Magwe and Mandalay regions, and Kayah, Kayah, Shan and Mon states. The area around the Sitaung River in Taungoo was home to about 20 IDP camps. Most of the IDPs had fled from battles between the Myanmar military on one side and the KNLA and other resistance groups on the other. Mata has been helping out at some of the IDP camps around Taungoo. She said nearly all the camps there were affected by the flooding.
The main thing now is that all the camps are gone. People have lost their belongings, what little they had, all the donated supplies, everything's gone. We've lost our shelters and all the camps are damaged, and people are getting sick.
Meteorologist Win Nai says remnants of Typhoon Yagi caused excessive amounts of heavy rain, floods and landslides in Myanmar.
It rains so much. Usually, if we get 30 millimetres of rain in 24 hours, we define that as a lot of rain. But when Yagi's remnants hit, the rain level shot up to 300 millimetres in 24 hours. That's 10 times more. After that, we saw flooding everywhere in Myanmar. In eastern Shan, southern Shan, the central region, everywhere was underwater, and houses were being swept away.
Though the storm affected several Asian countries, Myanmar appears to have suffered greater damage, mainly due to a lack of preparation. The head of the military regime, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, even admitted they'd not expected the situation to be this bad. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says almost 900,000 civilians in Myanmar have been affected by the floods. Over 380 people are estimated to have died. In Kayah state, 8 IDP camps were flooded, including 7 in Demoso township and 1 in Loi Khor township. Go Stephen used to farm in his home village on the Kayah-Shan border. But he had to flee intense fighting and airstrikes in June 2023. He's been living in a camp in Demoso township since then. Then disaster hit the IDP camp.
The rain just didn't stop for 3 days and nights. And then on the night of the 11th, the landslides hit. Some of the tents disappeared in the rain. We weren't expecting that. Our side of the camp was okay. But when we checked the other side the next morning, it had collapsed.
At least 10 people are believed to have died in that landslide. Go Banya, Secretary No. 2 of the Karenni Interim Administrative Council, says there are many urgent needs for people affected by the flooding there.
We still need food, and finding clean drinking water is a real challenge. Right now, we're facing shortages of shelters, food, medicine, and even basic things like bowls and plates, especially for those whose homes were destroyed. There are still so many needs.
Both the military junta and the National Unity Government have appealed for international assistance. But there have also been reported cases of regime forces preventing or attacking relief workers who are trying to deliver aid. Mata, who's helping IDPs in Taungoo, says like in other situations since the coup, people can only rely on each other.
People are the only ones helping each other. The official rescue efforts haven't reached many villages because the entire Taungoo township was hit. As far as I know, no help has arrived yet. We don't have any contacts, so all I've seen is people stepping up to help each other. Charity groups or individuals come by with donations, but I haven't heard about anything else.
For now, the flood-affected IDPs are struggling with food shortages and just basic survival. Ko Stephen is devastated.
I've never experienced a disaster like this, and it's heartbreaking. It feels like, if this keeps happening, we're not just facing poverty, we're risking our lives.
There were an estimated 20,000 people living in the IDP camps around Taungoo. Many of these people are now sheltering in monasteries, schools and churches on higher ground. But there are few resources and not enough food to feed everyone. U Thun, displaced by conflicts and now floods, is at the end of his tether.
I just want this to be over. I want the war to end as soon as possible. I don't want to go through another disaster like this again. That's all I can say. Maybe it's karma and it's teaching us to be resilient, no matter what life throws at us. That's how I'm trying to stay positive. But there are so many challenges, I just don't know what to say.
Thanks for listening to this edition of Doh Athan. We'd welcome your feedback on social media, and please follow or subscribe to our pages. This project on human rights reporting is supported by Fondation Hirondelle with the help of our donors. You can listen to our podcasts via the Doh Athan Facebook page. They can also be found on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify and Telegram. You can also listen every Saturday night from 9 to 10 p.m. and Sunday morning from 6 to 7 a.m. on Voice of America Radio. Please tune in again next week.